play an important part in any success. If you look at even the likes of sort of Chelsea, if you look at even Dyche at Everton at this point, it's extremely successful with a formula at Burnley, but it hasn't replicated at Everton. So these are circumstances that work in a specific environment, but they're not always going to be successful. But by and large, what they do is they give you kind of a platform, maybe some base kind of stuff to be looking at and saying, all right, well, maybe this is what we need to do. So that would be my opinion on it.
So that's fascinating. So you're talking about kind of similar football clubs, similar personnel, same manager. You're saying there is, but it worked in one environment, but it didn't work in another. How come?
So I guess there's numerous aspects to that. There's the whole infrastructure about behind the club. There's the fan base and the expectations of perhaps what you're supposed to be doing and who you are. There's probably a full culture and identity that at Burnley everybody would have bought in on, which is an important aspect. And probably at Everton you haven't got that. There's a few more egos. There's not quite the same kind of team culture, the same team passion to play in that way. Right, so not everybody's bought into it, and I think that's probably one of the biggest problems.
So when you say, obviously, the manager, therefore, and I had this debate with some MSCs recently about, is Jurgen Klopp's job to motivate Liverpool, and everyone said yes, and my viewpoint is no. His job is to employ talent, and talent should motivate itself. But what you're saying is that talent hadn't aligned to the vision and strategy of the manager, and consequently weren't on the bus.
Yeah, and you see that more and more in the top level of elite sports nowadays in any team. I mean, if we take Arsenal, for example, look at when Arteta came in, he's got rid of Ozil. He's pretty much got rid of anything that he sees as deadwood, same as Aubameyang, anybody who doesn't quite, fit to that ideal of his non-negotiables, of his cultures, the way that he wants to set in the life at that club and what that club should be like. So I think you see that very commonly now at the absolute elite level. Everybody's got to buy into this strategy, this passion.
Well, that's absolutely fascinating because, again, as we'll unpack this as we go through each episode, but actually, if we look about what a football manager, maybe it translates into sales, football manager's key job is to figure out who not to hire because it might damage that culture, or as you say, who to let go because they don't want to be there. And if the culture isn't strong enough, one character can completely and utterly derail the entire season, for want of a better way, or the entire year.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see this across the board, whether it be the All Blacks, they have a no challenging people, to say it's not the technical term, but yeah, they have this, and pretty much all of the teams are having this right now. And they're trying to create this aspect around the team, right? It's all about us as a team and as a collective. And another example of that, how managers are now really strong on this, is if you look at Pep Guardiola and Thierry Henry, when Thierry Henry signed for Barca, there was a famous incident that Henry has discussed about in the Champions League at Sporting. He wasn't doing so well on the left, so what he did is he switched wings and he went and scored. And then Pep took him off at half-time and basically said, you're not doing what I need to do. I need you to, for the team, to be successful in the long run, be successful more consistently. So that was quite of a bold move, but one that Henry then bought into. So I think that's, again, interesting thing.
So kind of what you were saying is potentially if he'd have stayed on the wing that he was allocated or asked to play on that position, the team would have scored more, but actually he went to go and fix his desire to make something happen.
So there's obviously kind of a lot of things that vary in football. So not necessarily would they have scored more, but what Pep is trying to install in all of his teams is that everybody has their part to play and you must play that role. And if you don't play that role, then in the long run, actually what you do, then the team is out of shape. We don't perform as well as a unit. I think of that in sales as an organization, as a sales team. We don't perform as well if you're kind of going a little bit rogue and not doing what we need to do, for our strategy.
Yeah, I think that is. It'd be great to pull Adam back in if we can to get his view on that and sort of like what you hear Adam, the balance of a team. What's your view about getting that right?
You're on mute, Adam.
Thank you. Schoolboy error. You think I would have learnt by now? Yeah, I mean, I profess to be largely ignorant about football as a sport, but one of the things that I did notice from watching the Beckham documentary was that actually that theory isn't necessarily always true. So he's a great example of somebody that when he had the fire in his belly, you know, when he was brought on halfway through a match and he felt he had something to prove, he put the ball in the back of the net and the whole team rallied around him. And he obviously was one of the rock stars at Manchester United, although, having said that, it was a very strong team at the point that he was there. So there were many stars within the team. But then he went to Real Madrid, and they hadn't won the league for some time, and they won the league when he was there. Then he went to AC Milan, and they won the league when he was there. And then he went to Galaxy, and they won the league. And then he went to Paris Saint-Germain, and they won the league. And actually, that's absolutely, I get that the team is a team and it should be a cohesive unit. But equally, sometimes you do need a rock star in the team. You need somebody who's on the pitch and able to inspire the people around them. And I guess the same is true of every organisation. You know, if you're my manager, you are very inspirational, and you're giving instructions, and I can follow those instructions. However, seeing the guy on the next desk to me performing and getting huge success inspires in a very different kind of way, doesn't it? It's a very hands-on, pragmatic, tactical kind of inspiration.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's variability in all of this, right? If you look at Beckham and you look at what actually they were talking about in the documentary, you know, they had the Galacticos beforehand, and that was a bunch of star individuals that didn't work as a team, and they weren't anywhere near as successful as they won. You take Harry Kane now at Bayern Munich, he's gone over there having an unbelievable season. They've not won the league for the first time in how many years? So, you know, there's both sides to it, but of course, you know, let's take back the Messi days of Barcelona, one absolute rock star in a team of stars, but everybody in their team knew their role and played that role, and just basically their tactic, you know, they admit their points, just get the ball to Messi because he will make things happen. So of course, yes, it, you know, there is an aspect of it, but if, you know, you have broken parts in the other place of a team, then, you know, you can have a rock star all you want. The overall performance of the team is not going to be as successful. I think that's probably the variability in it.
Well, but to both of you here, the piece is it the attitude? So, Adam, you started off by saying you were blown away by actually the attitude and actually what a guy he is. So I'm sensing you were possibly quite sceptical about, I'm going to enjoy this, he's actually going to come across as a real, you know, bottom, for want of a more particular word. But actually he wasn't. He actually had the right attitude. And how many times have you seen the rock star who doesn't want to do any work, who doesn't want to run back and doesn't track back? And actually that actually means that the rest of the team aren't motivated to do anything.
Yeah, and I think that it's the work ethic, not just on the pitch. You know, this is wider than just football. You know, this is the belief that is baked into people. You know, I will keep practicing that. So yes, you know, when I'm in my work environment, I will make lots of phone calls, send lots of emails, do lots of posts, go to lots of events, yada yada yada. But also, and I've worked with some people that have been rehearsal fanatics. You know, we are not going to go and see this client unless we rehearse this pitch that we're about to deliver.
Right.
And I think that, you know, doing the work behind the scenes, you know, like Beckham, seeing as we're talking about football, where what he would do is he would take a bag of balls out onto the pitch and he would kick ball after ball after ball after ball after ball after ball after ball while everyone else was in the bar having a few beers. He would just keep working, and that shone through in his ability. And I think that one of the things that you see in a work environment from people that are incredibly dedicated and focused is that they're always happy to rehearse it again, rewrite it again, do it again, to be as good as it can possibly be. And actually, that's the message that needs to go out. It's not like, oh, I can perform when I go into a pitch. Yeah, well, that's really nice. But actually, it's that backstory. You know, how much work do you do ahead of that pivot point to make sure that my guitar teacher said, it's no use rehearsing it until you can get it right. You must rehearse it until you can't get it wrong. And I think that idea of it being automatic to do things the right way is so crucial to success.
Yeah, what I love about this is, obviously, Dayle, we're talking about football and sport, and we'll be doing this weekly. Adam, you just interjected there on musicians. There's and Dayle, I don't know if you can chip in on this, but there is a lot of work that has been done about deliberate learning and deliberate practice, but not a lot that's linked it to sales. Because actually, Adam, to your point, sales go, no, it's deliberate performance, which is to me a very lazy way of saying I can't be bothered to have a deliberate learning mentality, and I'm certainly not going to actually shed out some time to do deliberate practice. So you're right, I'm going to literally in that example pitch up and actually do it in performance. It's like, well, I haven't done any learning and I haven't practiced, and yet Usain Bolt just didn't turn up for the 100 meters, did he, at the Olympics, and go, you know what, this is it. This is deliberate performance. He'd done what? How many hours and hours of checking his stride, checking his nutrition intake, getting his head in the right place, even to do that 100 meters at the time.
Yeah, sort of a mentality I live by in what I do is look at the process, not the outcome. Because if you look at the process and break down the process, do the right behaviors, have the right attitudes throughout all of those behaviors, and then eventually you'll get the right outcomes. Of course, there are variable aspects in anything, in football and sales. Sometimes you do all the right behaviors and not get the right result. But that doesn't mean that what you did, anything was wrong. So again, it's kind of that practice, preventing yourself from sort of, from the failing or giving yourself the best chance to succeed. So I think that's, it goes without saying, if you fail to prepare to fail, right? That's always been the case, and that probably will always be the case. But then you've also got to think, okay, what I'm doing is working now, but will it work down the future? And that's that kind of innovation in what is the sales process, and sort of maybe the methods that you would have to use over the long term. How can you keep what is working, but what needs to evolve? And I think that's also really important to consider in any field of work or sport or music, anything really.
I had this horrible vision then that what I was actually going to say is, yes, that's exactly how I do my 100 meters practice. And I had this vision of you in Lycra stretching, and making sure you'd eaten your banana and your chicken breast without skin on. Yeah.
That was pretty as it used to be.
Yeah, great comment here from Alex, 100% Adam. So some of the best people I've had the pleasure of working with are musicians. He didn't mean you, by the way, Adam, on that one. He said some of the best people are musicians as well. So I don't think that was a direct compliment. Yeah,
I'm aware of that. But I think one of the interesting things that Dayle said then about practice and breaking down the process, because you can control the outcome as much as you possibly can. I think the really important thing is that you can only prepare the things that are within your control. So you can do your rehearsals, you can do your practice, you can do your training, you can keep doing that until you can control everything that you can control. When you go out into the wild, whether that's a pitch or a sales interaction or a football match, there are things that are out of your control. There are other people involved, and you cannot legislate for how they're going to behave. But what you can do is you can load the deck in your favor. So if you think about your sales strategy and sales outcomes, if you have rehearsed something until you are slick and polished and articulate, is that likely to give you a better outcome than when you wing it? The answer is, of course, yes. Does that mean that every time you pitch you're going to win? Of course it doesn't, because the person who's on the recipient of this, they may not like you, they may not like your offer, they may not like your price, they may not like your company, and you can't legislate for that. But what you can legislate for is that you do your bit as well as you can possibly do it. And I think that idea that I'm going to control the things I can control, it just means that you're maximizing the chance that you're going to get the outcome that you want.
Yeah, but I think actually though, I'd expand that a little bit. You can prepare for being out of control. What are the scenarios that could go wrong, and how do you plan to get that back on track? And actually, looking at somebody who's arguing for sport, and this is what we're going to talk about, and then actually yourself for musicians. The actual third one is the aviation industry, who do a huge amount of practice and deliberate learning. A pilot spends lots of time reading the black box simulations and the reports as to what went wrong for other pilots, and also huge amount of time in a simulator. So we're actually unpicking, looking at Dayle, sport, unpicking from your perspective, music, both well reversed in terms of deliberate learning, and practice. Chess is another one. How many hours do chess players work constantly preparing their game? I see Dayle nodding there, yeah.
Yeah, of course. And you're also looking at, who are your competitors, whether you're opposition. Look at Arsenal, the way they played against Man City at the weekend. They play a different strategy to get the result. So, know who your competitors are, know how they're going to be kind of working and trying to counter you as well. Perhaps know your buyers and know what your buyers maybe want. They may have specific behaviors or specific preferences. So the more homework you do, the more you can prepare for those situations. Yes, always the element of outside of your control. But again, preparation. The more you do and the more you're kind of open to understanding kind of, that what you do has to adapt, the more you're going to be successful.
No, I certainly think jumping on the back of Van Halen while strangling him is a very different strategy to play in defence there. And I thought it was brilliant, yeah.
It goes both ways in football.
Yeah. I mean, when Pep has to run onto the pitch in his kind of like boxing umpire kind of kit and separate both of them at the 95th minute, you kind of go, maybe that was a bit full on in the old penalty box there.
Yeah, but at the same time as well, they were smiling and laughing straight after. So, there's the emotion of the pitch. And I imagine there's a lot of emotion as well in any sales negotiation, especially if it's a big one for you. There's a lot of money on the line. And it's about, keeping that cool head, not making a basic mistake, right? So as much as Gabriel might have been doing stuff in the penalty box, he didn't go overboard where it caused a mistake that would be detrimental to the problem. So, fine line.
Very fine line indeed. Well, we're coming to the end of this episode, and what we're actually looking to do, and we'll be doing it next week as well, is this will become a bit of a side track now, where we'll be doing something every week, Dayle and I, to discuss more specifically one or two aspects of what sales can either teach sport or learn from sport. So, what's your vision about what we'll be looking at going forward?
So there's so many areas from the management side and kind of how you can adapt your team, how you can adapt your style to an individual. We can talk about infrastructure and how infrastructure will aid success, which you can see a lot in sport, the likes of Chelsea, Everton, Burnley, all big examples. Training and culture, I think, are two real aspects that are really important. We consistently think about performance and how we drive performance, but perhaps, maybe not as much the process, even in feedback, the feedback that you're getting, allowing an open and transparent culture. You've got the mental health side of things and the drawbacks of performance. There's so many things that we'll cover. So that's kind of just a slight insight into some of the topics that will get discussed throughout the rest of it.
I'm really looking forward to it. I'm so impressed that you're going to be weaving Burnley into all of this. I mean, who knew that we would be bringing Burnley's kind of parallel to Sales TV over the next few weeks? But I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's going to be really exciting. But, join next week, everybody, because actually we're going to be starting another set of episodes, hosting it here in the studio first around sales transformation with Dr. Grant Van Ulrich, and Alex will be co-hosting that. And therefore we'll have 3 or 4 different streams of things coming. So we'll have sport with Dayle and I, we'll have transformation, a bit more of a documentary, we'll have the general lovely coffee kind of and biscuits conversations here as well at the studio every week, and then obviously the later edition hosted out of Boston. So a lot more coming. So this continues to be that massively great, safe, unbiased space for sales, for you to know everything about sales, the issues of today, what's breaking, what's more tried. Really, really excited that Dayle is going to be looking to co-host going forward. Knows a damn sight more about sport than I do as a lecturer in sports marketing. But we've also got Helga coming back in a couple of weeks, which is going to be a really, really cool episode as well. So thank you for tuning in. Please do let us know via the webpage future things that you would like to discuss, and maybe actually, Adam will be popping up one talking about musicians and deliberate practice and what that can teach sales. So, last word from you, Adam, and last word from you, Dayle, before we go.
Yeah, fascinating discussion, and I think that these relatively new concepts for how sales teams can improve their performance around practice and building a real team are crucial kind of cutting edge thoughts.
Agreed. Dayle closes out.
And for me, I think the exciting thing is when you think about everyone's own experience of sport, it brings out a lot of emotion, and trying to strip that back and really understand what's going on behind the scenes and how that influences sort of not just performance but many other outcomes, and really looking at the process behind it. I think that's going to be the exciting thing out of this.
Cool. Well, lovely to kick this off with you, Dayle. Look forward to working with you on many aspects going forward. And all I'd say is thanks to everybody here in the studio. Thanks for Robin. Great work hosting us again. And I wish you all a great post-Easter week, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.